What's going on, everybody? TheKennyDubz here with another Megaman.exe character overview video. Today we're going to be taking a look at Hub Style Megaman.exe, so let's get into it. Alright, I said the name in the incorrect order, but here we're taking a look at Megaman.exe Hub Style character I'm looking forward to. As many of you know, I'm a big fan of Battle Network. Let's take a look at the active skills first. First up, we have Charged Shot. Shooting energy round to deal roughly 27% attack damage to a target. Can be charged up for more powerful energy round that's 15 times damage. That's quite nice there. Kind of standard for the Mega Man style characters to have the Charged Shot. For the modified tips, we had Buster Master, increased damage by 20% when equipping a Buster. Perceptibility, reduce damage taken by 20% when equipping a Buster. And then Charged Shot, when shooting at maximum charge, the damage dealt is increased by roughly 28%. Now this one has a little bit incorrect wording here. This will actually give you an attack buff, which is kind of indicated by the icon, but it doesn't tell you that it gives you the attack buff, which is very, very important for something later. Next up, we have the Hyper Burst skill here, and this one's a bit different as this is based on program advantage from Mega Man. So the modifiers for these are all going to be things that change what this skill does, just like program advances kind of do, as they are a combination of different battle chips in those games. But Hyper Burst continuously deal about 106% attack damage to all targets within range. Next up, we have the Bodyguard. Switch skill to Bodyguard, which summons an invisible bodyguard to protect you. Bodyguard will automatically lock on to enemy to provide support fire. It will disappear after 6 seconds or making 4 attacks. Each attack for this one will be about 83% attack damage, and the cooldown on this is 6 seconds. Oh, cooldown inherently on this is 5 seconds, but depending on what you change it to, the cooldown is obviously going to be a little bit different. Next up, we have switch skill to Poison Pharaoh, which causes damage over time while targets in range, also known as dot damage. It deals about 168% attack damage, and the cooldown for that is 10 seconds. And then finally, we have Life Sword. Switch skill to Life Sword deals damage to all targets in range. Life Sword has a cooldown of 8 seconds and deals a fat 464% attack damage to the target. I'll go on to the passive skill. Something I do want to note here is that for whatever reason, someone was describing Megaman.exe or Hub Style Megaman.exe before as a tank character, but he's really not a tank character. He doesn't have all that much inherent defenses. Just wanted to kind of get that out of the way because I've seen some people say he is a tank character when he's really not. So first up, we have Gut Style. When the maximum charge shot is received, damage rate is increased by 10%, which is okay. Team Style, reduce the prep time of Hyper Burst, Bodyguard, Poison Pharaoh, and Life Sword by 20%. Following that, we have Shield Style. When hit by an attack, gain vulnerability status, which prevents you from taking damage after it is triggered. Effect can only trigger once more again after a 6-second cooldown. Very nice there. Custom Style. Hyper Burst inflicts flow on the target after it's been hit to reduce movement speed by 53%. Bodyguard causes the target you hit to be unable to use a skill. Poison Pharaoh, when hitting a target, reduce target's defense by about 10% per stack. You stack up 4 times. And then Life Sword renders the target immobile after hitting. And for these, you might have noticed different style names. These are the different styles available in Battle Network 2. They do appear in 3 as well, but there are more styles than just these in Battle Network 2, or Battle Network 3, I'm sorry. And then lastly, we have Perfect Sync. When you are in enhanced attack status, reduce damage you take by 15%. When above 75%, damage increased by 15%. Now, he does have quite a bit of damage mitigation in this kit, right? So I can almost see how someone or a few people were describing this as a tank character, but he's really not all that tanky. He doesn't have like much inherent, his inherent defense is just this, right? Essentially. And the reason I say just this is because while yes, you can have the Buster adaptability to reduce damage taken by 20%, but if you have that, then you don't have access to the enhanced attack stat to reduce damage you take by 25% inherently. So, you know, like that's why I'm just like, a tank? I was like, he really only has about 20% inherently. Now, you might be able to build him for more defensive play, but like inherently, he's not all that tanky. So, with all that out of the way, you might have seen me looking over to my other monitor a little bit, and that's because I needed to look at information on the wiki, so I had to do that. And we're going to take a look at the DNA as well as the... Oh, well, before I do that, I haven't really even spoken about all the the modifier chips. So I think mostly you're probably going to go with the charge shot enhanced damage status. Even with how common Grudge Axe is, just having the attack buff does so much for you. It gets you access to your 25% damage mitigation here, which is quite nice. It also gives you damage amplification alongside this. And then with this passive here, when your HP is above 75%, you deal 15% more damage, so you get an even bigger attack boost on top of that. So these two are okay, but I would either do Buster Mastery or Charge Shot, and I think Charge Shot is better. You can do Buster Adaptability for maybe more PvE style stages if you're struggling, but I think Charge Shot is going to be where you want to use in terms of PvE or PvP. And then for your program advance, might depend on what you want. I think Life Sword is very, very good. Just having the access to the stun is very, very nice, and it's also the strongest one of these things. I'm not sure if the Bodyguard can pierce terrain. Not entirely sure on that, but if it can pierce terrain, this is pretty good for PvP, as well as inflicting skill seal is very, very nice. Yeah, right here, skill seal. I think all of these are pretty good, to be quite honest, in terms of the custom style passives, but I think that for PvP you would likely use Life Sword as a go-to one, because if this pierces terrain, then maybe you might see some Bodyguards being used as well. I actually really like Bodyguard, but there's that. So now going on to going on to the DNA. First fixed DNA. Not that great for PvP, but when defeating a target with a weapon or skill, recover HP equal to 21% of the attack. So it can only be used once more after 6-second cooldown. Like I said, not good for PvP, but really useful in PvE. So that's very nice there. Next up, we have the mobility. The prep time for charge shot is reduced by 20%, and the time required to reach maximum charge is reduced by 25%. That is fantastic because that combos very well with his third modifier chip, and again, that's why you would probably want to have that alongside the third modifier chip for the charge shot. Downside is that this is a DNA instead of baked into one of his inherent passive skills, but I still think this is pretty solid. And then finally here we have complete penetration. The maximum charge shot now goes to landscapes and barriers and can penetrate a target. The damage after penetration goes 25%. The range is increased by 15%. I think this is a very, very good passive. However, I'm not sure about it being on DNA. Like, don't get me wrong, this is very good. Just being able to pierce terrain increases the range by 15% and allow it to penetrate another target. That one's doesn't really help in PvP again. However, just the range increase and being able to pierce terrain, that is very, very good, because inherently, like I said, I think maybe this can pierce terrain, not entirely sure, but having your main offensive ability being able to pierce terrain is very, very good, because you can pierce terrain, like I said, damage boost there, and damage with whatever else you opt to use. So now let's take a look at the passives real quick. I'm sorry, the unique Recon My DNA. As a continual damage stimulant, when you are in continual damage status, increase damage deal by 12%. And this is pretty useless, to be honest, because this is so situational as when you are in continual damage status. So you have to be hit by it by someone else for you to deal 12% more damage. I'd rather just have something else here. Like, you got a Player Sentinel. If for PvP builds, Player Sentinel, you could go with Adversity, Adaptability, which would be decent. That could combo with your first fixed DNA, but I think it's Player Sentinel better if you're going for PvP. Buster Amp is okay as well to go for. And then over here, what do we have going on over here? We have some immobilized special attack. So you have immobilized defense reductions, no skill, which is all good because you can inflict those with your skills, with the modifier chips. And you don't have slow special attack though, do you? No, huh? Wait, no, defense reduction? You don't inflict that. No, you do. Slow, yeah, slow is the one you don't have. No weapon skill resistance. It's okay. Interference might be kind of relevant depending on what you're fighting in the global version. If you're really annoyed by like Zero Nightmare and Crimson Strike Zero, however, you still have to watch out for Grudge Axe, because they can still just join your buffs. But yeah, over here, we don't really have that much in the way of defensive things here. Like you can see, we have like You know, we have player sentinels. We have player sentinels 1, 2, and 3, which those aren't bad, but you don't have anything like big, you know, defensive things. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like the Zero Nightmare in Dark Megaman.exe have if they're using a buster melee weapon, they just get a a decrease of damage by 30% just for having those two on. That's a big decrease just for existing, right? And then on top of that, you can stack your double adaptability melee and buster for an additional 10% for level 3, and then so on and so forth, going downwards for those. And that's why it's kind of confused how people describe him as a tanky character. I was like, he's more balanced, if anything, and mostly. But that's enough of that. Let's go take a look at some weapons that might work well with Hub Style Megaman.exe. Okay. So, unfortunately for Hub Style Megaman.exe, while he does have some inherent affinity for weapons like busters, you're probably not going to be using those modifier chips on him. However, with that said, I do want to point out the typical busters on him, because I think buster melee will probably be his best combination. So alongside that, we're going to have the air buster, as that is just really really good, as air buster gives you speed, so you can speed onto the opponent. You also have some pretty nice hidden skills here with you have access to defense, amplification, and homeopathy adaptability, which is quite nice as well. I think I would prefer the defense amplification though. Though this is pretty good, the homeopathy adaptability. I think this is better if the unit in particular can make use of this more frequently, as if like they can heal or something like that. You could still run it, but you might not get as much value from it, specifically on Hub Style Megaman. Again, Sniper Buster. Not really much to say there. It's a good buster to use. Same thing for Explosive Bolt. Explosive Bolt has insane range, and I always recommend Player Killer as the recommended skill, because Player Killer is just infinitely easier to use than Penetration. Penetration does have access to more damage output, but Player Killer is just so much easier to use. Like, you literally just exist with Player Killer. You do 12% extra damage, and it applies to your skills that you have active. While Penetration requires a bit more setup, as you have to be in a location where you can even make use of the penetration and the ricocheting of the shots. But it is still an option. I just think Player Killer is better, as it's more consistent. Then again, as per usual, Destructive Laser is another option I think is pretty solid as well. Destructive Laser is just a decent sniper weapon that you can use. Although, of the sniper style busters, obviously I think Explosive Bolt is the best. If I didn't say it before, I'm just saying it now. Explosive Bolt is just the best sniper weapon. Like I said, it has insane range. The hidden skills are phenomenal. Even though I like I like Explosive Bolt the least, I do think it's the best sniper buster. Following that, we have some melee weapons here. Grudge Axe, Singularity Slasher. Grudge Axe, I think, is probably the what you're going to choose of the melee weapons that you have access to. You can use Singularity Slasher, but Singularity Slasher dispels buffs on the opposition, while Grudge Axe gives them to you. So, because Grudge Axe gives them to you, you might be able to get lucky and steal one of their attack buffs, right? And then have that trigger your mitigation on Hub Style Megaman, which is quite nice. And then, since we're talking about melee weapons, we cannot forget the boy, or the weapon, I guess, Nightmare. I think Nightmare is really good. One of the main reasons I think Nightmare is really good and you want to use a buster melee setup is because Nightmare gives you an attack buff, and with your attack buff, you have your passive for defense mitigation always active. Yeah, you can get it stolen by Grudge Axe, but then you have to just play like a little further away if you're encountering someone with Grudge Axe, right? But the attack increase is always going to be good regardless. You can just use this as utility, just swing your sword around and just poke from range with your charge shot. Isn't bad. And then we have the Ancient Relic here. Ancient Relic, again, is just a good weapon for its utility. Has some dot damage as well. Reduce cooldown is pretty good for it as well, because it's not the good kind of melee weapon, but Speed Rune, Assault Rune, Protective Rune, Cleanse Rune. You're probably going with Speed Rune most of the time. To be honest, I think Speed is probably the best overall rune to get. Protective Rune isn't bad, but again, Grudge Axe can steal it. And if I wanted to give the opposition a buff, I'd rather give them speed than a shield, personally. Especially since I can just poke from range, so I don't have to worry too much about getting close. However, depending on the depending on the program advance you're going to go for your skill 2, you might need to get close. If you're using the life sword, for example, you need to be pretty close to that. So, like I said, I think either one of these is good, but I wouldn't want to have to get close to my opposition while they have Grudge Axe and then have them steal my protective rune, so that like as I'm going for the life sword, it just gets like they steal my shield and then they just nullify damage of my life sword, you know. And then assault rune, I think it's pretty good as well. Increases your crit damage. The only downside with this is it increases your crit damage, but not your crit rate. So when you crit, you'll do a lot more damage, but you have to crit for that. Something interesting you can do, which I think might be playable. I don't think it'd be that great on Megaman.exe personally, but because you can make use of short range adaptability on this and have access to your own inherent attack boost, you can make a bit of a bulkier build. Alongside the defense mitigation that you have with the player sentinels in there, and maybe with some card combinations and some inherited DNA as well. However, you won't be able to hit the levels of like Nightmare Zero or Nightmare Zero Dynamo, you know, or Dark Megaman.exe. But this is something that you can do as well because of short range adaptability. When you're in short range, you take damage. You take 12% less damage. Blah. Wow. So that gives you room to, you know, kind of like dash slash if you want. Use your dream sword. As your dream sword will have access to the immobilized status as well with the 4th passive on Mega Man. And then you have Frostbite to slow them down. So it's kind of like you're getting in 2 status effects because of the Frostbite on this weapon and the dream sword. So it'll make them harder to get away from you. It'll make it harder for them to get away from you as well. You also have the inherent defense increase on this, which isn't too bad. So this is an option you can use. I don't think it'll be that great, but I figured I would throw this out there as well. And then if you're going to use Mega Man Hub Style for PvE kind of things, again, Crimson Scythe. I say again because and like in every video, like I point these out, which is why I say again, not because I've said it in this video in particular, but Crimson Scythe has healing HP absorb as a hidden skill when you defeat a target, so that's good there. You want to grab that if using it for PvE content. Alongside that, the festive specialty as well is great. Basically for PvE, you just want weapons that have inherent healing on them, so things like that. And then like maybe for Jakobs, you need a launcher that heals, so you're gonna go for the Bubble Bomber. Bubble Bomber just allows you to heal when you get hit, and with the hidden skill, you can heal when you run out of energy on the weapon with regeneration. There is also the Heart Spray Gun if you need healing from a sprayer of some sort. Emotional Reflux can give healing along with Free Emotion and Inject Emotion. Then there is the, what is this? Super Mad Gun as well. Super Mad Gun allows you to get healing with HP absorb here, which is pretty nice for that. And I think that's all of the weapons in global that give access to healing. Well, if you're fighting a boss, you know, you're gonna grab the Monster Hunter Sword, Essential Shadow Saber. Grab the HP recovery as your hidden skill there. Alright, and with that, I think that is enough going over some weapons. So let's take a look at some cards that will go well with Hub Style Mega Man. Alright, now again, as per usual, I say this a lot, but I need to reiterate it like each time I do this. It's going to depend on what you're covering with your DNA, what you're not covering, what weapons you're using, etc, etc. Now, because I'm just going to recommend some things that are generically good, as per usual. Player Killer is great for PvE. Sorry, PvP, because Player Killer will just increase the amount of damage you deal just for existing in a PvP environment. And with that being the case, your usual suspects are going to apply for that. Your M Bisons has Player Killer 2, will be Player Killer 3 upon fully leveling up the card. Your Life Ores from the base card, which you can get in the token shop. Sigma X4 card, second form, has Player Killer as well, which again you can get from the token shop. The Mac card, alongside the Violin card. I believe you can still get the Violin card. This might have been from some event packs, or I think they might be from packs you can get regularly in the game. They're just from like the higher tier, has the better chances of dropping them. But the Mac card is a red card that has Player Killer, and it's pretty easy to get as it is an A rank card right here. So that's good to have. And I actually forgot to mention the Akuma card specifically because I was mentioning player killer. Akuma has a different skill. It's called, I think it's called Way of the Fist, or is it Master of the Fist? It's Master of the Fist. And this will always stack with Player Killer because it is a different name, so it does not matter what level of Player Killer you have, it will stack with this because they are different names. So that is good to have. Following that, because I recommended Buster Melee, the general Buster Melee combo is going to be recommended in the Elite Hunters. Elite Hunters is just a fantastic combination. It allows so many units to use Buster Melee really effectively, gives them damage amplification, damage mitigation. Again, though, for the level 5, where is it? The maxed out version, you'll get double amp Buster 3 and double amp adaptability Buster Melee 3. So it's going to be 10% on both of those. But then anything lower than a 5-star will get you 8%. So stacking these two together, it's 18% right there just off of those alone. So that's pretty good. And then you stack a red card alongside them that likely triggers off of blue. Mac is a decent option you can put for that in particular, as that will give you access to the player killer as well. But some other options that you could do if you are looking to get maybe Buster Mastery instead. Let's say like if you don't have access to the Elite Hunters card, X's Memories has Buster Amplification. Triggers off of red blue. You can even drop this into that set as well because of red blue. The guild development card has Buster or double amp for Buster and Melee. It is a lower tier guild card, so this might be easier for some players to use if you haven't had good luck with getting the Elite Hunters card from your guild. Oh, the Elite Hunter cards from your guild as well. So I don't think I mentioned that previously, but I just wanted to point that out as well. The Megaman.exe card is also a decent option if you want Buster Amp 2, as it has Buster Amp 2 when it's fully maxed, and you can get it right now from the Battle Network 2 packs from the Domination of the Network Guardian event. Is it Domination or is it the Network Guardian? I don't remember which one it is, but the one that's active now while the banner is live. Quest Be Completed is also another card you can use that you get from your guild that has access to double amplification. Doesn't have double adaptability on it, but double amplification will increase your damage by 10% when it's at 5-star as well, and by 8% when it is not maxed. The X and Zero card, if you were able to get it, has access to Buster Adaptability 2. It triggers off of red and blue, so you can use it alongside Elite Hunters. And then the Adversity Amplification 2 will also be triggered off of Elite Hunters. Alright, and that will be it for Megaman.exe Hub Style. Yeah, this is a unit that I really like. I don't think he's going to be a top tier pick, but I think he's decent enough for the point that we're at in global right now, especially with how flexible he is with his skill 2 with program advances. The Poison Pharaoh might actually be a sleeper pick. I don't think it's all that great. However, the defense crush that it adds could be match changing. You might be able to punch through, say, maybe Zero Nightmare a bit easier with the defense crush if you're not doing too much damage. So the defense crush and your inherent buffs as well over here and over here. So that might be pretty good to help out with that. But that's something like pretty specific, and I'm not even too sure how well that will do against like the higher end builds of it. But I figured I would mention it because I didn't mention it earlier. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Help the channel out some curl, shows me you enjoy the content. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons and YouTube channel members. As with your support, I can continue doing what I do. If you'd like to support me as a YouTube channel member or as a patron, find out that information down below the video. Good luck to those of you that'll be pulling for Hub Style EXE, and I'll catch you guys next time. Later.